So now we're going to work with a date picker. This is a very simple project, and the simple project is just going to have you work with a date picker. We're not going to do very much with it. We're just going to change it around, but it's just to get to show you how to work with the widget. So we're going to create a simple view application, single view application. We're going to call it date picker. So I'm going to go into Xcode, click on create a new Xcode project, click on single view application, and then I'm going to say date picker, and then go ahead and press next. And I'm going to save my date picker to the desktop. Hopefully we got this far. I think my computer might run a little bit faster than some of yours out there, but anyway. Main storyboard. Oh, what am I going to do with the storyboard? I like green backgrounds. I'm going to change my background to green again. That's a perfect color green. Okay, there we go. Just like my computer. Very green. Alright. So now we're going to drag a date picker object from the library, and we're going to place it into the view controller, well, into the storyboard file. This is a very old tutorial, so I have to retrofit it. And then we're going to wire the property into the view controller.h. So this is the no-brainer part of it. We go down to the library, type in date, and then just wait to see what happens. We only get one object that comes up. It says date picker. Grab a date picker, stick it onto the canvas. Interesting. What does a date picker look like? Well, if we run the project right now, let's just see what the date picker looks like. Wow, looks pretty impressive. We didn't have to do anything. We just dragged it and put it onto the canvas. We get the day. Oh, it was today. I don't know. Today, which was the 2nd. Oh, no, this is the 3rd of, I don't know. It's like 3/3 today, I think. I changed it around. Did it give us the right date when I put it up?
Yes.
Okay, good. Anyway, I just wanted you to do that so you can see what the date picker looks like, because the date picker here doesn't look like much. Okay, so close the side piece now. That was your big fancy application. We're done. No. Open up the viewcontroller.h file. Let's wire the date picker. So I'm going to make a property out of it. And what am I going to call my property? Let's just take a look at the cheat sheet over here. Doesn't tell me what to call it. So I'm just going to call it my picker. How's that? That sounds pretty good to me. Alright, so let's just do my picker. So I'm taking the date picker, I'm pressing down the control button, I'm dragging it over here, and it says UI date picker automatically in there. I'm going to call it my picker. Don't call it date picker. Or better yet, don't call it date/picker. Just like you don't want to call a UI label, or UI button, a UI button. Xcode will allow you to do that. However, you're going to get so many errors, it's ridiculous. And the program will never compile, and you'll end up having just to start fresh. So if you want to think of a cheat sheet way of doing it, just add my in front of everything. I know it's a date picker, that's why I said, well, I said picker. I left out the word date. Okay, so now I have the property wired. If I want to, before forgetting, I can go to the viewcontroller.m file and then create a synthesize for it. So let's just do that now. I'd synthesize my picker. So now I have it synthesized as well. So I'm not going to forget to do that later on. Why? Because I have a tendency to forget that. So now I'm going to go back to the viewcontroller.h file where I was before. I'm just trying to save my memory. And let's see what we got coming up next here. So in the viewDidLoad method, what am I going to do here? We are going to create a new instance of the NSDate object. And the NSDate object created this way will hold the current date and time. And then we're going to set the date picker to that date. And then, which ensures every time that the view loads, the picker will be reset to the current time and date. Is that really needed? Yeah. Did it come up? Or was it set to the... Actually, that's a very good question. In the old days, it was set to some random number. Let's just check it out real quick. I just want to see it again because I messed it up the first time I ran it. Today, 3. Oh, it's just the time. But it does say March 3rd on it, Monday, March 3rd. So it is today. So probably unnecessary, but let's initialize it anyway, because at least we have the variable going on. So click over to viewcontroller.m. Instead of making this a property for, which I thought we were going to do actually, instead of making it a property for the object, we're just going to put it in here in the viewDidLoad method. We're going to get the current time and date. We're going to set it on the date picker. Why? Don't really have to, but we're going to do it anyway, just to show you how to do it. So what is this going to do? NSDateNow is going to be, we're going to make a new now, excuse me, a new NSDate. We're going to call it now, and it's going to be a NSDate alloc and init. This is the initialized, the allocation and the initialization technique. If you haven't taken the Objective-C course, this is how we make a new instance of an object. It's like saying new date. And then date picker, well, I called it my picker. My picker set date to now, which is my date. And then animate, yes. Animate it. What it means, move it to the date. And then that's it. So this basically shows you how to set the date on the date picker. So when the user selects something, you select the date that's showing after they selected it from the date picker. And then you can actually set a timer to go off on a certain day at a certain time. Or you can do a countdown if you wanted to, that way. So I'm going to copy and paste this and stick this in the viewDidLoad. Also, I can sort of see how this, and I have to change this to my picker. I can sort of see how this might come in handy if, let's say the app didn't ever go away and you didn't know, let's say you were traveling or something and the date changed and it's still on the old time zone or something. You could change the time on your clock and then change your date picker to match that time or something. I don't know. There might be some reason for it. Okay. Not going to come up with rationality for that. But that was step number 3. And so in step number 4, we're going to drag a round rectangular button from the library and place it on the window. Oh, do we have rectangular buttons anymore? I think we just have buttons now, actually. And wire the IB outlet touch down, even to button pressed. Okay, so let's just put a button on there. Let's see, I don't know what our button's going to do, but let's see. I forgot. Pretty much forgot about this, what this app does, but let's see. I'll follow along. Take a UI button. Put a button on here. And what did I want us to do? Wire the touchdown event to button pressed. Okay. I'm going to make my button a little bit bigger. I don't know what I'm going to put on my button yet. I'll change the text eventually. I like big buttons. I'll also put a big button on here. So this guy is going to get wired, so I'm going to flip back over to the viewcontroller.h file, and I'm going to take the touchdown event, right mouse clicking, and I'm going to take touchdown and wire this one to button pressed. So B-U-T-T-O-N, capital P-R-E-S-S-E-D, button pressed. And change the ID type to UI button. You can leave it on ID if you'd like. Doesn't really matter. And press OK. So we got this mystery button. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with the button yet. I forgot. But let's see what's in the tutorial. Can't remember all these tutorials. All right, so we got the button pressed. And now we're going to put some code in the button press. Let's see what the code's going to do. The code's going to create this string for us, and it says the date and time you selected is selected, and it's going to set up a little UI alert for us. So it's going to tell us what date we've got. So this is actually twofold. Shows you how to put a little alert up. Why? Because eventually what's going to happen with your timer program, when it counts down, you can do this. When it gets to 0, put up a little alert. Say, hey, countdown finished. It could be, let's say, for example, you have an hour left. Someone says, okay, sit here for an hour and do something. So you can set it for an hour, and then say, hey, time to go. No, so you don't have to keep watching the. Anyway, a little notification is going to come up for you. Not a notification, UI alert button. So what we're going to do, we're going to create an NS date selected, which is going to be a date picker date. So we're going to get the date from the date picker. So this is how you're going to get the date for your countdown or for your display or for whatever you're going to do with it. And then we're going to create a string. It's going to be an NS string message. And it's going to be a string that's going to have an alloc and an init, but the init is going to be with an initializer. Init with format of a substring, the date and time you selected is, along with selected, and selected is going to be an NS date. We use the @ symbol here instead of the D. In the previous example, we used a D in there for digits. So this is the @ symbol for object. The object that we have is a generic NS date object. And then we're going to we're going to create a UI alert, and the UI alert view is going to be called alert. So we're going to alloc and initialize it, and we're going to initialize it with the text for the title, and the title is going to say date and time selected. And inside the UI alert, there's going to be a message, and the message is going to say, along with a cancel title, yes I did, or other button, nil. So the button is going to say yes I did on it to cancel it. And the title is going to say the date and time selected along with the message, and the message is going to be the date and time you selected is selected. And the selected is the date. So go ahead and copy and paste, and then alert.show shows the alerts. So copy and paste the code and put it in the button pressed method. So we have our button pressed method. We have to go into the viewcontroller.m file for that. And button pressed is on the bottom. So go ahead and paste the code in. And now date picker is my picker. I called it my picker. So my picker. And it looks like I got some interesting wrapping errors, so I'm just going to get rid of those. There we go. And now I should have a little alert button that comes up when the button is pressed. So I'm going to put a label now on the button that I know what it's supposed to do. I'm going to say show me. Because now I know what this button's supposed to do. So it's going to say show me. So let's see. Compile and run the program. And then we're done. So let's go take a look here. I'm going to compile and run it. So let's see, it says today is 3:44. Well, let's see, I'm going to pick Sunday at 2:43 a.m. No, let's leave it at 2:40. There we go. I just changed the date to yesterday, and I'm going to say show me. The date and time you selected is 03:02, which was yesterday, at 10:42:24 plus 1. Well, so what time zone is this in? Anyway, and this is my button. It says yes I did, so I pressed OK. Let's put it back. Actually, I'm gonna put it back. Huh?
You have one choice. You should say yes I did.
Yes, that's the button. It says confirming. So is it really 23? Oh, it's in military time. I reset it so I could tell what time it was in. So apparently it's 12 plus, what time is it now? 18? No, actually we're 23. I don't know what time zone this is in. 11?
Yeah.
Maybe this is in the wrong time zone. We got the date now from this. Is it really 3:45? Yeah, PM. But our calculation is showing that it's 23:45
It's showing GMT.
GMT time. Now let's take a look at the code here real quick. We didn't do anything with it, is what the problem is. We just left it on the default time. So on the button press, it's getting the date from the date. Oh, that's okay. And the date and the time you selected is the selected.
Yeah, it's GMT.
So it's GMT time, so you can probably change the time. to the regular time it is. I'll let you guys figure that one out. I'm not going to bother doing that. My job was to show you the date picker. So now what you can do is get from a, and we're just doing it from a button press. We're getting the stuff that's in the date picker as the selected string. So you can use that to put it on a label if you wanted to. It's just a string. So instead of putting in a UI alert, you could just put it on a label if you wanted to. So on a change or on any type of an event here, and you're going, well, what kind of event do you have? If you right mouse click, you have a editing changed event. So let's take a look here. We can update a label. So if I create, let's say for example, let's just play around with this for a second. So if I go back to the viewcontroller.h file, and I'm playing around here, so it doesn't really mean that this is actually going to work. So I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to take one of these events that says editing, let's see, editing changed, value change. Let's put it our value change. I like that one better. And then I'm going to say new, I'm going to call it new dates. And it's a UI date picker. So on the value changed method, I'm going to have it update a label. So I'm going to put a label out here then.
The ID action is for the date picker?
Yeah, I did it on the UI date picker. I changed the value. I added an action called value changed. And I called it new date. And so then here I'm going to make a label. And I'm going to put a label down here on the bottom. This is just extra stuff. So on the value change, I'm just going to set the label to the string instead of putting it in a UI alert box. So let's just put it here. And let me change the font, make it a little bit bigger. So make it 25. Looks pretty good. I don't know if I might have to make I might have to just put the date there. So. And let's see. So if I come back over here to the view controller, oh, let me make this into a property. So this is going to be, I'll just put it up here. Control drag it over. I'm going to call this new date. New selected date. So it's going to show me my new selected date when the value has changed. So I'm going to press connect. And so I'm going to actually take this label off because then it won't show when I first start the program. So then I'm going to go over to the viewcontroller.m file here. And then on this one down here, I'm going to take the button press, kind of the same code here. I'm going to take this first part of it and put it in here. So this is when a change exists, but I'm going to take and put the string on the text label of the new date selected. So let me synthesize that property I just created. I think I said new selected date, called it new selected date. Oh, it wasn't new selected date, was it? Let's see. Property synthesized getters follows Coca naming convention. Oh, what did I do? Let's go back up, take a look. So UI label. Maybe I shouldn't have selected, let's see. Property synthesized getters follows Coca naming convention for returning owned object. Hold on one second. Let's just see what I did over here. So UI label. I'm going to try something else actually. I'm going to change the label. I'm just going to call it something without the word new. New selected is, that's a no-no. So let's see. I'm going to come over here and pull this out to get rid of the error. I'm going to leave the other one in there. I'm going to make another property out of this because I don't like that error message that I got. And I think it's because I created a reserved word. I used a reserved word with the label new selected it, which is not a good idea. So I'm just going to wire it again. And I'm just going to call this again. So again is not taken by anything. So I'm going to come over here to the M file and put in again. And now I don't have a problem. Are we going to do attendance? Okay, so let me pause this.
Sorry, what did
Again.
Just show me again.
Huh?
What did you do? What did you do in viewcontroller.h?
Oh, in viewcontroller.h, I just left this one alone, this one that says new selected date, and I just control dragged it again and called it again. So now I have the new property. I have a property twice, but I'm only going to use one of them. And I'm not going to remove this property because then that's going to cause more trouble than it's worth. I'm just going to leave it alone. And then in the viewcontroller.m, you add it to the synthesize line.
That to the label, right?
It's the label. These are two labels. It's my picker and the again label. So, let me pause this. Okay, I'm back. I had to recreate that project because I was getting a memory message error that was just not working for me, and that problem would not go away. So it's now been recreated, and I have put the label here, although I have not made a property out of it yet. It's a simple label property. I don't understand why that would be causing an error. So I'm going to go back up to the viewcontroller.h file, and right underneath my picker, I'm going to add another property. This time I'm not going to use the word selected or new or anything in there. I'm going to call it my label. So I'm going to press the control button, and actually I'm not going to call it label. I'm not going to use anything. I'm going to just say output. How's that? Output. Should be pretty safe. I don't think there's anything in here called output. So now I have output. Now I'm going to go back up to the viewcontroller.m file. And just to be even on the safer side, I'm going to synthesize it underneath. I'm going to say @synthesize. I'm going to put even a new one in here, output. This is where I was having problems before, so now I'm just going to run the project again to see why in the world I would have a problem. I don't know. I want to say it was because I used a keyword new and I used a keyword selected and I put it together. I'm looking pretty good. I just called it something else, so this is working too. Okay, good. So now, hopefully, if not, you can copy this finished project when I upload the video, but hopefully you'll recreate it. Maybe it's extra practice for you. What I really wanted to do is on the UI date picker, maybe it was when I created the event for that. So let's see what happens with that. So I'm going to go back up to the viewcontroller.h, excuse me. I'm going to right mouse click on the UI date picker, and I'm going to drag this value changed event, and I'm going to put in here something safe. How about it changed? It changed. And I'm going to call this method, or excuse me, the type is a UI date picker, and the event is the value changed. So on the value changed, I'm going to update the label, and the label is going to say value changed. Just to test it out first to make sure that that works. So now I have it changed. I'm going to flip over to the viewcontroller.m. The reason why we were doing this is we just wanted on the change the label to be updated. So on the value changed, I'm going to take the label here. What did I call the label now? I called it output. Output.text is equal to, how about, let's just put text in here just to start out. It changed. Because I want to test it, because I don't understand why I was getting those memory errors before. So I'm going to go ahead and run it now and see what happens. Build succeeded. We're working okay. We're doing good. On the value changed, it says it changed. So that's what I was expecting to happen the last time I did this. But I used a really bad word, I guess, selected. Selected is a very bad word. Don't use that word. Anyway, so what are we going to do now? I want to really, instead of that dialog box coming up, the reason why I wanted to do this is I wanted to put the new date in the label. So when the value changes, it will go ahead and update the label for us. So in here I have an NSDate selected from my picker. And in here, I've got this little thing here that says the date and time you selected is going to be selected. And selected is going to be the string. So I'm going to take and copy this one. And I'm going to go back to that method I just did up here. Instead of saying that the output is equal to that text, I'm going to have it equal to this other text. So I'm going to paste this one in here. And I want to take out the date and time you selected is, and I just want to put in the date and time. So I'm going to create this string message. And the string message is going to be created by selected. And then I'm going to take and put that word here. So it's going to say message here. So now, if you don't understand what I did, is I created a string, and the string was created from using selected. So it was in it with format, and I used the format character, the @ symbol, instead of saying $sign or %D, I said %@ with selected, and selected is from the date picker date. So it's the current date. So now every time the date changes, the label should now show the new date. So let's see what happens. The time is still going to be off. It's still GMT time, but we should see the new date showing up in here. So let's see what happens. So show me still works. Show me is going to say that it's the 4th already. Is today the 4th? Have we been here this long? No, today was the 3rd, wasn't it? I thought I was like totally losing my mind. Alright, so now we have, it's scrolling because the label's too big. But now let's see if I make it the, see the 0302? It's going to change it 0303, 0304. Today is not 0304 though. We're on GMT time. So we're like 6 hours ahead. So, or 8 hours ahead, I'm sorry, 8 hours ahead. So it's just after midnight or so. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning for us, I guess. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm feeling like maybe it should be the 27th. There we go now. Actually, this is the 28th though, which is actually kind of interesting. Anyway, don't worry about the accuracy of your time here. But you can see that the change event works actually. So you could actually have a couple labels, and you could stick, so let's go back here for a second. So in the previous tutorial we broke out hours, minutes, and seconds. You could break out the date and change the format of it. I'll let you explore that one, and I'll let you figure that out. I don't want to do the whole thing for you. But this project appears to be working now the way that I wanted it to work. So I'm going to go ahead and end it then at what it's at now. Unless we have any questions or we have any suggested behavior we want to add to this. No? Okie dokie.
So for assignment,
Yeah.
what we have to change into this?
That's a good question. Let me go back and revisit that. So I'm going to close this here, close this here. Let me stop this recording.